The fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital flickered as 17-year-old Marcus Chen sat hunched in the waiting room, his pale fingers gripping a crumpled prescription paper. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his gray hoodie hung loose on his thinning frame. He'd been coming here for 3 months, each visit met with the same skeptical glances from the staff. The whispers had started 2 weeks ago. He's just after free medication. But what they didn't know was that Marcus was dying, and tonight, everything was about to change in the most unexpected way. Marcus had been battling a rare autoimmune disorder that attacked his nervous system. The tremors in his hands had started small, but now they were constant. His mother had lost her job 6 months ago, and their insurance had lapsed. The hospital's charity program was his only lifeline, but lately, the administrators had been questioning whether his symptoms were real. They thought he was acting. They thought he was scamming the system. And tonight, they'd called security to escort him out. "Sir, we need you to leave the premises," the security guard said, his hand already moving toward Marcus's shoulder. The boy's eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but from the crushing weight of being disbelieved. "Please," Marcus whispered, his voice cracking. "I just need the medication. I'm not faking. I swear I'm not faking." The nurse at the desk looked away, unable to meet his desperate gaze. The guard's grip tightened. This was it. This was the moment Marcus had feared all along, being thrown out into the cold night with nothing but his deteriorating health and a prescription he couldn't afford to fill. Then, from the emergency room entrance came a voice that seemed to cut through the tension like a blade. "Hold on a goddamn minute." Everyone turned. Standing in the automatic doors, wearing a simple navy flannel shirt over a worn band tee and comfortable khaki pants, was Ozzy Osbourne. His signature long hair was pulled back casually, and reading glasses hung from his shirt collar. He'd just finished a private hospital tour for charity and had been heading to his car when he heard the commotion. The security guard's hand dropped from Marcus's shoulder. The nurses stood frozen, and Marcus, despite everything, felt his heart skip a beat. Was this real? Was Ozzy Osbourne actually walking toward him? "What's going on here?" Ozzy asked, his British accent thick with concern as he approached the desk. The head nurse, flustered, stammered through an explanation about policy violations and suspicious cases. Ozzy listened, his expression darkening with each word. Then he looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and saw what the staff had been too jaded to notice: the genuine tremor in the boy's hands, the exhaustion etched into his young face, the desperation of someone fighting an invisible battle. "Let me get this straight," Ozzy said, his voice steady but firm. "You're about to kick out a sick kid because you think he's faking." The nurse shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Osbourne, we have protocols. There's been an increase in people exploiting the charity program, and we have to be careful." "Careful?" Ozzy interrupted, his eyes flashing. He moved closer to Marcus, studying the tremor that ran through the boy's hands even as he tried to hold them still. Ozzy recognized something in that struggle. He'd spent years dealing with his own neurological issues from decades of substance abuse and a serious ATV accident that had nearly killed him. He knew what real tremors looked like. He knew what genuine suffering looked like. And he absolutely knew what it felt like to be judged and dismissed. "Kid?" Ozzy said softly, turning to Marcus. "What's your name?" Marcus," the teen replied, his voice barely above a whisper. He couldn't believe this was happening. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness himself, was standing 3 feet away, looking at him with something that felt like understanding. "Marcus Chen. I have autoimmune autonomic neuropathy. It affects my nervous system, causes tremors, dizziness, rapid heartbeat. The medication helps control it, but," his voice broke. He didn't need to finish. They all knew the rest of the story. "No insurance, no money, no hope." Ozzy's jaw tightened. He'd heard enough. Turning back to the nurse, he asked, "How much does his treatment cost?" The nurse blinked, clearly not expecting this turn of events. I'd have to check with the pharmacy and the administration. His monthly medication alone is probably around $1,500, and that's not counting the regular checkups and lab work he needs. Over a year, we're looking at maybe $25,000. She said it like it was an impossible sum, a number that would surely end this bizarre intervention. But Ozzy just nodded, pulling out his phone. He made a call that lasted less than 2 minutes, speaking in low tones that no one could quite make out. When he hung up, he looked at the nurse with an expression that was pure rock, and rolled defiance mixed with genuine compassion. "It's covered," Ozzy said simply. "All of it. For as long as he needs it." The waiting room fell into stunned silence. Marcus felt his legs go weak, and he had to grab the chair beside him for support. The security guard took a step back, suddenly looking embarrassed. The nurse's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Mr. Osborne, that's incredibly generous, but we can't just accept. You can, and you will? Ozzy cut her off, his voice leaving no room for argument. I've just spoken with my financial manager. The money will be in your hospital's charity fund by tomorrow morning, specifically earmarked for Marcus's treatment. No strings attached, no publicity stunts, just a kid getting the help he needs. He paused, then added with a slight smirk, unless you want to explain to the press why you turned down a donation and threw out a sick teenager on the same night. The nurse's face flushed. No, of course not. We're grateful, Mr. Osborne, truly. Marcus, I apologize for the confusion. Let's get you that prescription filled right away. She hurried off, leaving Marcus standing face to face with the rock legend who just changed his life with a single phone call. The teen's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of relief, of disbelief, of overwhelming gratitude. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. What do you say to someone who just saved your life? Ozzy seemed to understand. He placed a gentle hand on Marcus's shoulder and said, Don't mention it, mate. Seriously. I know what it's like to be judged, to have people think you're faking or exaggerating. I spent half my career with people thinking I was just a crazy act. But the truth is everyone's fighting battles nobody else can see. He paused, his expression softening even more. You keep fighting. Marcus, you hear me? Don't let anyone make you feel like your pain isn't real. Marcus nodded, wiping his eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. I don't know how to thank you, he managed to say. You saved my life. Literally, I was out of options. I thought tonight was the end. Tonight's not the end, Ozzy said firmly. Tonight's a new beginning. You take that medication. You follow your treatment plan, and you get better. And when you're healthy again, you pay it forward. Help someone else who's in the position you're in now. That's all the thanks I need. He glanced around the waiting room, where several other patients had been watching the entire exchange with wide eyes. That goes for all of you. We take care of each other. That's what being human is about. But Marcus had to know something. In all the chaos, one question had been burning in his mind. Mr. Osborne, he said hesitantly, why did you stop? You were leaving. You could have just walked away. Why did you come back and help me? Ozzy's expression grew distant for a moment, as if he were remembering something from long ago. You know, I heard you say something to that nurse. Right before I walked in, you said, I'm not faking. I swear I'm not faking. And the way you said it... He shook his head, his eyes glistening. It reminded me of my own daughter, Kelly, years ago when she was struggling with her health issues. People didn't believe her either. They thought she was being dramatic, that she was exaggerating because she was a celebrity kid. But I saw her suffering and it broke my heart. The waiting room was completely silent now. Everyone was hanging on Ozzy's every word. He continued, when I heard you say that, when I heard that desperation, that need to be believed, I couldn't just walk away. I couldn't let another kid go through what my Kelly went through. So I turned around and I walked back in, and here we are. He smiled softly, and for a moment, the legendary rock star looked like nothing more than a concerned father. Sometimes the universe puts you in the right place at the right time. Tonight, I guess I was meant to be here. Marcus felt a lump forming in his throat. Your daughter? She is. Ozzy nodded. Took time, took treatment, took people finally listening to her. But she made it through. And you will too. He pulled out his phone again and tapped at the screen for a moment. I'm giving you my assistant's contact information. If you ever have trouble getting your medication, if the hospital gives you any problems, if anything goes wrong with your treatment, you call her. Day or night, she'll make sure you're taken care of. I mean that, Marcus. You're not alone in this anymore. The teen took the phone number Ozzy showed him and programmed it into his own cracked phone screen with trembling fingers. It felt surreal, like a dream he might wake up from at any moment. But the weight of Ozzy's hand on his shoulder was real. The warmth in the rock star's eyes was real. The promise of help, of hope, of a future beyond tonight, that was real too. I won't let you down, Marcus said quietly. I'll get better. I'll pay it forward. I promise. I know you will. Ozzy replied with confidence. The nurse returned with Marcus's prescription, now filled and ready to go, along with a schedule for follow-up appointments. She handed everything to Marcus with an apologetic smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The security guard had disappeared entirely, probably embarrassed by the whole situation. The other staff members were keeping their distance, unsure how to process what had just happened. Ozzy watched as Marcus carefully placed the medication in his backpack. zipping it up like it was the most precious cargo in the world. "Mr. Osborne," the head nurse said, approaching cautiously. "I want to apologize. We should have handled this situation differently. We should have given Marcus more consideration, more compassion. This has been a wake-up call for our entire staff." Ozzy looked at her steadily. "Good. Make sure it stays that way, because Marcus isn't the only person who'll walk through those doors needing help and understanding. Every patient deserves to be believed. Every patient deserves dignity. Remember that." His words carried weight, not because of his fame, but because they came from a place of genuine care. The nurse nodded, properly chastened, and retreated to the desk. Ozzy turned back to Marcus one last time. "You ready to go home, mate?" "Yeah," Marcus said, shouldering his backpack. "Yeah, I am. Thank you again, Mr. Osborne. I'll never forget this." "Never? Call me Ozzy," the rocker said with a grin. "And Marcus, keep your head up. You're stronger than you know." He walked Marcus to the hospital exit, making sure the teen had a way home. Marcus's older sister was already pulling up in their beat-up Honda, having gotten his frantic text message about what happened. When she saw Ozzy Osborne standing with her brother, she nearly crashed into a lamppost. Ozzy waved at her cheerfully, helped Marcus into the passenger seat, and watched as they drove away into the night. The teen pressed his face against the window, watching until Ozzy's figure disappeared from view. Inside the car, Marcus's sister was bombarding him with questions. Was that really Ozzy Osborne? What happened? Did he actually pay for your treatment? Is this real life? But Marcus was quiet, holding his medication close to his chest, still processing everything. Tonight, he'd gone from being accused of faking his illness to having one of rock music's biggest legends step in and save him. Tonight, someone had finally believed him. Someone had finally listened. And that meant more than all the money in the world. Back at the hospital, Ozzy stood in the parking lot for a moment, looking up at the stars. His security team was waiting by the car, giving him space. He thought about his own journey, the decades of struggling with addiction, the health scares, the times when people had written him off as a has-been or a joke. He thought about his family, about the times they'd fought their own battles against doubt and dismissal. And he thought about Marcus, about that one line that had stopped him in his tracks. "I'm not faking." 3 simple words that carried the weight of so much pain, so much struggle, so much need to be seen and heard and believed. Sharon, his wife, called him as he was getting into the car. "How was the hospital tour?" she asked. Ozzy chuckled, settling into his seat. "Well, Sharon, it got a bit more interesting than expected. I'll tell you all about it when I get home. But I think I might have made a real difference tonight. For one kid, at least." Sharon knew that tone in her husband's voice. It was the same tone he had whenever he talked about their children, whenever he talked about the things that truly mattered beyond the music and the fame. "I'm proud of you, Ozzy," she said softly. "I'm always proud of you." As the car pulled away from St. Mary's Hospital, Ozzy looked back one more time at the building. Somewhere in there, the staff was probably having a long conversation about their policies, about their approach to charity cases, about how they'd almost made a terrible mistake tonight. And somewhere out in the city, Marcus Chen was heading home with medication that would help him fight his battle, with hope renewed, with proof that sometimes the universe does put the right person in the right place at exactly the right moment. The Prince of Darkness had become an angel of mercy, and one desperate teen's life would never be the same. 3 months later, Ozzy received a letter. It was handwritten on notebook paper, the kind kids use in school. The handwriting was still a bit shaky, but noticeably steadier than it would have been that night at the hospital. It read, "Dear Ozzy, I wanted you to know that I'm doing so much better. The tremors are under control, I'm back in school, and I even joined the music club. They didn't have a heavy metal appreciation section, so I started one. I'm playing bass now, my hands still shake sometimes, but I'm learning to work with it. You told me to pay it forward, so I've been volunteering at the hospital, helping other patients navigate the charity program. I make sure nobody gets treated the way I almost was. Thank you for believing me when nobody else would. Thank you for hearing that one line and choosing to care. You didn't just save my life, you taught me what it means to really see someone else's struggle. I'll carry that lesson forever. Your friend, Marcus." Ozzy read the letter 3 times, then showed it to Sharon. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "That's my Ozzy," she said. Always the rebel with a heart of gold. He tucked the letter into his desk drawer, right next to photos of his children and other precious memories. Marcus's story would stay with him, a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can create the biggest ripples. The music, the performances, the albums, Those were all part of his legacy. But this was something deeper. This was human connecting with human in a moment of desperate need. What would you have done if you were in Ozzy's position that night? Would you have walked back in, or would you have kept walking? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.